Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. Looks like a few of you are still coming on, but just wanted to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Erin Smith. I'm the program manager for alumni events here at the College of Engineering and Applied Science. And I'm very excited to be here this afternoon for our second Buff Brewers Happy Hour with CU Engineering alumnus and owner of Bootstrap Brewing Company, Steve Kaczeus, along with his wife and business partner, Leslie, and their son, Dylan, who is also a CU alum. I invite you all to grab your favorite drink and follow along with us. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our alumni brewer, Steve Kaczeus. Steve received his Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering at CU in 1982. After spending several decades working in industry, he was ready for a change and decided to turn his passion for homebrewing into his new profession. Steve and Leslie opened Bootstrap Brewing in Niwot, Colorado in 2012. You may recognize the entire Kazoos family from our engineering homecoming tailgates. Since we began this new tradition at the college 2 years ago, all three of them have joined us to pour their beer and connect with fellow Buffs before the big game. Steve, Leslie, Dylan, we are so excited to have you all back to host this happy hour. Thank you so much for joining us today to share some of your story and guide us through our tasting. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Hey, really glad to be here. I'm Steve. It's my wife, Leslie, and Dylan, our son. And again, we're really excited to be here, and we're passionate about brewing our Bootstrap brewery and excited about telling our story and all that good stuff. I definitely want to give some recognition to Kevin and Aaron and Cameron. We've done a lot of fun things with them over the last couple of years. So thank you guys. We love you guys, and we can't wait to see some of the future stuff that we're going to end up doing with you guys. So in the meantime, I thought that we'd kick it off with one of our beers that we make. It's the Insane Rush IPA. You can see all the cans behind us. We've got quite a few. I think it's like 6,613 cans per pallet. And we'll do a little tour later. We've got, I think there's like 1 million cans in here. So a lot of fun.
Feels like 1 million cans.
Feels like 1 million cans. So Insane Rush IPA, it's 7.6% ABV. And it's about 50, 60 IBUs. But it's a great balance between malt and hops. This is a very drinkable beer. This was one of the first beers that we brewed at Bootstrap. It's won a number of awards. It's the #1 seller up here in northern Colorado. We just found out today. And it's a very popular beer up and down the Front Range and all that. So great balance between malt and hops. I've got 5 different hops in this beer. A lot of Cascade up front, so you might taste a little bit of grapefruit, and a lot of Simcoe on the back end. That gives you that piney aroma and all that good stuff. But again, it's a nice balance with the malt and hops. I made it a little bit maltier so that it subdues the hops a little bit, and it's just a really drinkable beer. So
we call it the Gateway IPA. People who say, I don't drink IPAs because they're too extreme or too bitter. And we'd say, try this. And they go, oh.
Yeah, and you know what really surprised me was how many gals who say, nope, I don't like IPAs. And we're like, no, just try a little bit. You'll enjoy this. And they're hooked. So I love it. I love all you gals. That's very cool. So do you want to talk a little bit about the story of the artwork of Insane Rush and how it's just kind of wraps all the way around?
Yeah, so we work with a local agency in Boulder called Moxie Sozo, and they are just fantastic at branding. They interviewed us and said, tell us about this beer. And Steve said, first thing he said was, there's a crazy amount of hops in this beer. And so they're thinking, okay, crazy hops. What would crazy hops look like? Rabbit's hop. Okay. So what would crazy hopping rabbits look like in an Insane Rush? And so then all of a sudden they're introducing the predators. There's a snake and there's an owl in the corner. And we, after what, several months, all of a sudden we realized, and there's this scorpion down in the corner. And we started asking, why is there a scorpion? That's not a natural predator to a rabbit. And then I realized we do these music pairings. So the artist had gone to our website and seen that the Scorpions were a band that we suggest goes very well with Insane Rush, along with AC/DC and Great White and My Hot Tub Party Mix, which we'll release one of these days. And the fun thing about our cans also is there's a cowbell hidden on each can, because our mantra is more cowbell. We love that SNL skit, and we just try to have a lot of fun with that.
So they did a really good job. It's unusual. They wanted to just kind of do a breakthrough art, so it's not your standard can. You actually have to wrap around to see the whole story of what's going on. And on top of that, they did a matte finish. So it touches all the senses. So when it's sitting out there in the liquor store in one of the coolers, you're like, what the heck is going on? You pick it up, and they said, we're going to do the best artwork. You just need to make the best beer. And I said, that's no problem. Just make the best artwork. So anyways, so here we are. That's the Insane Rush IPA. Right
on. And so, Steve, why don't you tell everybody about your experience at CU?
Oh, sure. I love CU. It's a great school. So I went to Fairview High School out here in Boulder. So sorry, all you Boulder High School fans or whatever. But I had the opportunity. I got a scholarship at CU. I got a Regents scholarship. I also got a scholarship at the engineering school at Berkeley. And so it was tough for me to kind of pick between the two. But I also played a lot of tennis. I was very competitive in tennis and played a lot of junior tennis across the country. And CU had a great varsity tennis program back in the day. And so the combination of the school, the engineering school, which was brilliant and still is brilliant, and the tennis program was just, and the location. I mean, the mountains, the skiing, all that stuff, it just pulled at my heart. So I ended up going to CU. Had a great experience there. You guys know, I personally loved all of the hands-on laboratory stuff that the university had to offer. I really enjoyed the design side of the program, the curriculum, and it was just awesome. I mean, engineering economics, who doesn't love that, you know, and using that in the future and business and all that stuff. So just loved it. C was part of my life, and I learned a lot about teamwork in the lab with the rest of you engineers out there, and also a lot of teamwork with the tennis team and all that. So fun little curriculum for me. And, you know, lo and behold, all of a sudden our son Dylan, he's going to CU also. So we're representing here at Bootstrap a lot of CU stuff. So why don't you just talk a little bit about what you like?
I mean, so growing up, kind of for mom and dad, high-tech industry took them out to California. So that's where I was born, raised, but we came out to Colorado quite a few times, and always made our way to Boulder and checked out the campus. He was very proud of it, and beautiful campus, by far the most beautiful campus in the country, hands down. I don't care what anybody else says, it's true. And I just remember as a kid always going through campus and just reminiscing through his stories and his eyes. And so it was really easy for me. We ended up moving back out to Colorado when I was about 11, 12 years old. So I ended up attending high school at Niwot High School, just down the road, about 15 minutes from Boulder. And from there, I mean, it was bleeding black and gold, you know? So it was always, CU was always in the back of my mind. Without a doubt, my top choice to go out there, and ended up starting arts and sciences, so psychology, communication. After I got a nice basis of that, realized, okay, we are, with the family business, doesn't hurt to have a little bit of business background. So I moved over to Leeds, the business school, Studied a little bit of accounting, finance, ended up finishing in marketing. And while I was there, we're a very athletic, competitive family. So I played baseball for CU as well. Took on a lot of leadership roles and great camaraderie through that. And in doing so as well, I joined Greek life. That was huge in kind of really building that work ethic. One of our big things that we like to really emulate as a business as well as a family is philanthropy. And so that's something that I really focused on while in Greek life as well. And that's something that we've really focused on here as a business too. And so we'll kind of talk a little bit about some of those programs.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we opened up in June 20th, 2012. And within a couple of weeks, we had our first opportunity of giving back to the community. Unfortunately, it was one of those situations that there was a big forest fire, big fire up on Flagstaff. You guys who were here, you probably remember that. And so we wanted to give back. We were trying to figure out how can we help. And so we decided that we were going to take a portion of our proceeds and we were going to donate it to the Boulder Wildfire Co-op, and which was great. I think it was like $500. We probably made $1,000 that week, and we gave away $500, and we're like, oh my God, this feels so good. And so unfortunately, it was up in Flagstaff. We had a beer that didn't have a name yet, our Amber. We were just calling it Bootstrap Amber. And we said, you know what, why don't we tie this together and we're going to call this Flagstaff Amber. So we now have Flagstaff Amber, and that just kind of represents this philanthropy first step that we were able to do. But since then, we've done a lot of stuff. I just wrote down a couple of things, so bear with me as I just read it. We did Habitat for Humanity's House That Beer Built. That was a huge deal. We did that three times. It was a single mom.
She came in and spoke during one of our tribute days, and all of our customers got to meet her, which was really cool.
Yeah, that was great. In fact, talking about that, about every 3 months we do a tribute day, and on that Sunday we have 10 to 12 bands that play, and they play for free. They come over, they donate their time, their effort, and it's not really free because we give them free beer anyways, but no, they love it. And so we pick a charity, and we donate a portion of the proceeds to that charity, and the bands contribute and the customers donate more, so it becomes this really cool thing. So one of them that we just did was the wildlife or the wild animal sanctuary up in Keensburg. And turns out that the guy who started that, I went to high school with, and we graduated at the same time. So didn't even know that, but that was kind of a cool circle. The other thing that we did, so we do that every 3 months. The other thing that we did that was huge was, and we'll talk about this later, but I'll give you a little cheat. This is our Lush Puppy Juicy IPA. And when we released that last year or the year before, we teamed up with Max Fund, which is a no-kill shelter, and they have dogs and cats and all that. And the festival that we did with them when we released it, they brought a bunch of puppies. I don't know, it was like 8, 9, 10 puppies. And before the festival even started, the other breweries that were setting up tents and stuff in our area, they fell in love with these puppies and they started adopting them. And we're like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy cool. And then the whole event opened up and people were at us and with the dogs, and before you knew it, they all got adopted.
And then we got our retailers involved. So with Coors Distributing, we both contributed 50 cents per case sold, went to adoption fees. We had the restaurants, if they donated, then we would all match. And so we just had a lot of fun with that partnership with Max Fund.
Yeah, so the philanthropy part, I'm glad you brought that up, is huge for us. And we've love that. The one that we just did was a collaboration with BJ's restaurant here in Boulder. A lot of you guys probably went to BJ's. And we did the Colorado the Colorado Strong Pale Ale. And that one is to support the COVID initiative, hospitals and frontline workers and all that stuff. So in conjunction with the Colorado Brewers Guild and Left Hand Brewing, their foundation, all this money is going to help, the situation that we're in today. So it's a big part of our life, and that's why we do what we do. It's not only making beer, but also community is a big deal for us. So.
Cool. So why don't you tell everybody how you started brewing and how you moved into professional brewing?
Yeah, well, it started by drinking beer. Actually, Leslie bought me a homebrew kit. Being a mechanical engineer, which is what I graduated with, I got into the development engineering side of things. So a lot of creativity, had the opportunity to design new things, and I found that that's what I was really passionate about. We got into the high-tech industry, like Dylan said. We worked for disk drive companies in the Silicon Valley and out here. And so a lot of my job was actually designing disk drives. And I just loved that creative aspect of it. And so with the homebrew kit, that gave me an outlet to be creative and invent, create recipes, and improve the beer making process and all this stuff. And actually was pretty good at it. Made some great beer. Made some really bad beer too, some skunky stuff, but that's how you learn, right? You gotta push the boundaries a little bit, try to understand why you have to do things a certain way, and which later on it still broke the rules and still made great beer. But anyway, so it was really that homebrew kit that got us going. And then we just started inviting friends into our basement, our neighbors, and just started having fun beer tastings. And, again, people were like, oh my gosh, this is pretty good beer. And we started having specific tastings in the basement where, okay, today's stout, and we're going to buy everybody's stout, and we're going to sneak my stout in there. And then we'll rank them all. And this day we'll do IPAs. We'll buy everybody's IPA, and then we'll sneak my IPA in there. And we were usually in the top. And of course, your friends are always going to support you and say, oh, you ought to go start a brewery. And then everybody goes and starts a brewery. But so that was cool. And again, made some beer that ended up at the bottom of the list, and never make that beer again. But so with that, I was working at Mac Store, if you guys are familiar with Mac Store here in Longmont, and a disk drive company. And Mac Store got bought out by Seagate. And none of us knew if we had jobs for 6 months. You have to stick it out, and if you made it, you made it. If you didn't, they give you a bonus thanks, and off you went. So I was one of the lucky ones that hung out, made it. But that was really the catalyst that got Leslie and I to go, we always talked about having our own business. What would we do? And that started a 5-year journey for us. Of course, it always takes engineers forever. You got to collect all the data, and you can't make a decision until you have all the data. So that's why it took 5 years. But during that 5-year process, we went to craft brewers conferences. We talked to some of the icons in the brewing industry that are out here, like the Odells at Odell Brewing, Eric Wallace, who owns Left Hand Brewing, Dale, who owns Oscar Blues. And they were all really supportive about us asking questions and what if we did this, and what's different today compared to when you started. And it just went on, and it just built our confidence. And it finally got to the point where I decided that it was important that if we were going to start a brewery business, it was important for me as an engineer to understand the technical aspect of brewing. So really the biochemistry of what's going on, not just, okay, throw water with grain and here's what happens. Oh my gosh, we made beer. And it had to be more detailed than that. And as engineers, all of us know that that's very important, that you really understand what your process is and how it all works. So I ended up going to the American Brewers Guild, did that for 6 months, and then did a small internship. Leslie came out for the graduation and she said, oh my God, I can see it in your eyes. We're gonna start a brewery, aren't we? And I said, yes, because the option was, we're either gonna start a brewery after 5 years or we're moving to the Caribbean. And we chose the brewery side. Where we made the mistake was we didn't open the brewery in the Caribbean, but that's a whole nother story. At least we met Kevin and Aaron. We wouldn't have met them if we went to the Caribbean. So anyways, so that's how that came about. And why didn't you tell them how we came up with the name Bootstrap?
Okay, so we had these grand plans that we were going to build this huge brewery, and
23.
I know you're talking too much.
Sorry.
And so we had this budget, and we were gonna go raise money. We were looking for partners and investors and bank loans, and everybody thought, you guys are crazy. You're gonna leave your high-tech jobs to go do what? And you have no experience doing that. And so we realized real quick that we were not good at fundraising. And so we decided, well, what can we do with what we've got? And we took out a HELOC on the house. We hacked the budget up, and as it was getting smaller and smaller, I looked at Steve one day and said, this is going to be such a bootstrap operation. And we both had that aha moment. And, you know, wildly enough, nobody was using that name. So I went out and trademarked it, and we started moving forward. And it just really is the essence of, we did what we could with what we have.
And our neighbors and friends, they came over, they helped us build coolers, put chairs together, painted and all this stuff, and the support from the community was incredible. And so Bootstrap Brewing is really what resonates with us. So we're gonna crack this open. This is Lush Puffy, our juicy IPA. This is one of our latest releases. This is another fun one. It took me a year to develop this. Again, as an engineer, why does it take so long for you to do stuff? Well, it's the engineering discipline, right? You gotta just get it right. We always want it to be perfect, yeah. Murphy's Law jumped in there every once in a while. But a really interesting beer. It's juicy, hazy, a lot of technical aspects to brewing this beer and how to keep it hazy, because traditionally beers will clear up over time, and but a lot of fun stuff. And technical wise or process wise, we made some changes to how we brew this beer, and it's become one of my favorites. So it's got a ton of hops in it. Aroma, very citrusy. It's a juicy. You see that bad boy right there? Yeah, that's what juicy means. Orange in your mouth and just drooling all that flavor.
Sweet.
Cheers, guys. All right, let's cheers.
Let's do a tour of the...
Cheers. We'll give you a little tour of the tap room over here.
And then we'll come back here.
We'll come back and we'll talk some more. Perfect. So this might get weird, just walking around. We might drop you.
No, we're not going to drop you.
A lot of noise. You got that?
Okay. Everybody can see Dylan.
We're going to head into the tap room. So we did just open up on May 29th. So we've got quite a few people in here. Maybe not quite a few. It is getting a little crummy outside. But make sure everybody's practicing their safety. Everybody's got their face masks. Going scuba diving. Here we go. All right, welcome guys. Welcome to the tap room. So as you can see, we've kind of got a nice little tropical theme going on. As Steve and Leslie were mentioning before, it was either open a brewery or move to the Caribbean. Well, since we didn't quite move to the Caribbean, we decided to bring tropical theme to us. So we'll go on a little tour around here. You can see we got some nautical flags going on.
Everything he says is not true. Well, is that what you want?
Right, guys, you can see a lot of colors we got going on of the crystal clear ocean. We've got our beer cooler here, all the other local breweries that come on in, slap their stickers on there. We've got our beautiful gal corn up here.
Woo, more gal.
Our tap wall here, we've got 16 beers on tap here. Usually about 10 of them are constant. The other 6 we're usually rotating. We've got a lot of medals and awards. So we've got a lot of Great American Beer Festival medals. We've got 5 of those. We've got some US Open. We've got back-to-back World Beer Cup medals for our Imperial Red, the Wreak Havoc. That's an 8.5%. So we're not going to try that one today, but if you get your hands on it, it's a primo beer, absolutely. Let's go on around. Take you guys on outside. We'll take a look at the patio.
Cheers,
hey guys.
cheers everyone.
Cheers.
That's going around the world, you know.
I can see that.
Yeah.
And as you guys can see, so because of the current circumstances, we are practicing some extra safety measures. We've got our gals are being hostesses as well. They are seating people. We've got all of our marks around. We're really practicing social distancing. We have expanded our patio as well. So we'll take you on outside real quick. So we got quite a few picnic tables out here. Beautiful trucks, nature, it's great. Expanded our patio, like I said. Also, guys, I know most of you are in the Front Range area. If you are around our neck of the woods, in 2 days on Saturday is our 8-year anniversary. So come on by, we're gonna expand the patio even more. We're gonna take up some of the parking lot, put some more tables, some umbrellas. We're gonna have a cool time. We open up at noon. We're gonna go till close about 9. Maybe 10 o'clock, depending on how everybody's doing. But we'll have some live music. We've got a food truck that serves up food every single day. So if you guys are hungry, we'll take care of you there. And we'll head on back inside. All right, and this right now, guys, say hi, guys. Cheers. So right now, due to these circumstances, this is our stage. So we have a couple tables up there, but for the anniversary party, we're gonna go ahead and have a live band up there. Usually in the past, we've had a lot of dancing. Fortunately, we can't be doing that right now, but we will get back to those days, which is great. But we got a fun atmosphere here, real fun vibes, nice tropical theme, like I said, really brings in the ambiance to just let loose, lay back, have a great time, and enjoy our beers.
All right. We head back to production.
All right, guys, we'll head back to production.
We're back.
Welcome
Gotta
back.
hit a lull over there. All right.
All right.
So that kind of gives you a flavor of our tap room and the front side of the business. And you know what? Dylan talked a lot about the COVID stuff in our current circumstances. And I guess I'll talk a little bit about it and what did we do to reopen. So that side that you just saw was closed for 11 weeks. And just like other restaurants and tap rooms were closed across the country. And that was with COVID-19, so the tap room was a big deal for us, and having that shut down was a little bit painful for the community and also for us, because we're very community oriented, very friendly, and and touchy-feely and all that stuff. So when that shut down, we had the curbside sales. A lot of great support again from the community, and them supporting us again as far as buying through the tap room. So that was huge. And again, like Dylan said, we opened up on the 29th of May, practicing all the social distancing. Boulder County Public Health dictates to us what we can and can't do, and we adhere to those practices. And but on top of that, we do all that extra cleaning too. Because we use a lot of chemicals back here on the brewing side, we already had great relationships with our chemical companies, and we were able to leverage that relationship to make sure we had the EPA, FDA, CDC approved chemicals to clean our tap rooms, the bathrooms. You'll see that our staff sanitizes and cleans constantly. Yeah, 5-star all the way. Absolutely, as one of our chemical providers. But on top of that, we did a lot of other research. How can we make things better and safer for everybody, including for ourselves? And one of the things that I really, really enjoyed was see you put on a number of webinars during COVID-19, and I think they still are. And one of them was put on by Shelley Miller, who's part of the mechanical engineering department, and I think she was doing like a lot of environmental stuff for rooms like restaurants and tap rooms. And I sat in on that webinar, and I geeked out on a lot of the fun data she was putting out there, and the modeling and like airflow modeling of HVAC systems and what happens in the room, and if you're sitting here or you're sitting there and all that stuff. So there was a lot of great information. And so it was about airflow, but also she talked about UV and ionizers that can actually break down bacteria and viruses. And so we took a lot of that information and we implemented it into our tap room. So some of the things that we did was we implemented higher efficiency filters. We increased the flow in our room to get more volume exchanges through the room. We implemented these ionizers, which are the science and technology behind it is pretty incredible. It's, so I'm just gonna geek out for just a second. So just let me do this. So these are ionizers that you put into your HVAC system, and it basically creates bipolar ions. So you have plus and negative ions that kind of creates a plasma sphere just before going into the filter. And so it goes through, and these plus and minus ions, they attach themselves to, imagine dust particles, miniature, micro dust particles. So this will attach, and then this, and then they get stuck together, and this and that, and they get bigger and bigger, and then they're easy to capture through the filter. The virus and the bacteria, the ions attach themselves to it. They pull out the hydrogen out of the cell, and without hydrogen, the cell dies. And so the viruses, the bacteria, or the virus itself, it essentially dies. And as we're just rotating through, I probably have some of the cleanest air around. So we now sleep here. It's, you know, one of the healthier places.
Well, we always thought we lived here full
We live
time
here anyways. But just on the side, they do sell a house version. So it's a smaller ionizer that you can put into your HVAC system, and it eliminates odors, smoke, dust, and everything else. Okay, that was a geeky thing, sorry.
So real quick, what are some of our new products that you're excited about?
Yeah, so this year we released a couple of packs. This is our party pack, and this is basically every one of our canned beers, which is all 5 of them. We do 2 beers of each. So it's Chillax or Pineapple Gold, Insane Rush, Lush Puppy, Sticks, Reek Imperial. But something that we do that's different from everybody else is we also throw in 2 seltzer cans. We just got into the seltzer business this year, and speaking of that,
Vanna White coming in.
Yep, we introduced Sparkalicious this year, and this is just an amazing product. It's an amazing drink. Again, this was another one that took us about 6 to 8 months to develop because it's a brewing process, but it's completely different from your traditional brewing. So again, a lot of fun science. It's gluten-free. It's about 100 calories. Some people use extract, syrup, whatever, I don't know, essence or whatever. We use real fruit.
Real fruit.
And that was really important to me. Just like when we make our chili beer, it's real chilies, it's fresh, and all that good stuff. So, having said that, I've got Greyhounds.
And I've got Cosmo.
I've got the Sunrise.
And these are all based on the
Cocktails that we
like.
enjoy drinking. So Leslie loves Greyhound. You know, on a cocktail, if you put salt on the rim, it becomes a
salty dog.
Salty dog. I love Cosmo martinis, so that's Cosmo.
And they're colored because it's the real fruit. And they're delicious because they're real fruit.
And then the Sunrise, of course, is the tequila Sunrise. There's the grapefruit.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Yum. 4.5%. And like I said, gluten-free. I've been pounding this summer while we've had a little break from the tap room, working on the front yard and putting in sprinklers and all that stuff. Anyways.
So why don't we take a tour of the production area?
Okay. You know what? Before we do that, why don't we talk a little bit about the events we participated with CU on?
Okay.
I love it. We're on a time thing here, and Leslie's writing.
I'm writing 40 minutes.
All right. But this is important because we did participate in a lot of events at CU, specifically the engineering tailgate during homecoming. For 2 years with Kevin and Aaron and Cameron. You guys, we love you guys. Just like I said, I'll probably say it a few more times. All right. Buffs on Tap for the last 5 years. That's the Alumni homecoming.
And you were at the first one.
I was at the
right?
first one, yep. There were probably 5 breweries, and it's all CU alum brewers or CU alums who became brewers. And so we did that for 5 years. Dylan did the Leeds tailgate party. One of my favorites, we did CU Next in Denver. That was awesome. If you guys ever get the opportunity to do a CU Next event, go to it. I think they're doing them across the country, but we had the opportunity of participating in the one in Denver. Great talks. And we had the engineering alum.
Yeah, last summer it was physical here.
Physical here instead of virtual.
This year's virtual.
Although this is a happy hour.
It is.
That was, yeah, okay. Yeah, whatever. Maybe now's a good time to want to do the production tour, or do you want to?
Sure. Real quick though, I do want to comment. I know that we received some questions ahead of time. Kind of a few of you were asking, what is the best way to kind of get into the industry? And it's one of those things where beer is a very social industry, so it's something as simple as go to your local tap room, go to your local brewery, ask to just talk to anybody. Everybody is so outgoing, so willing to just talk about beer. And more often than not, we're here most of the time. So you have a great chance of meeting one of the brewers, somebody from the production staff, packaging staff. And because we're so infatuated with the business, we're willing to have a beer over it. And you can pick our brains, we'll answer questions, we'll kind of let you know. A lot of times that word of mouth, we're looking for help, other breweries, smaller guys who are looking to jump to that next level. They have those opening positions that are great for somebody who maybe doesn't have that resume or who wants to get their foot in to kind of just, you could help out on a weekend packing beer, you know, it's something really easy.
Yeah, and just to tag on to that, get to know your brewer that's sitting in the tap room, get to know the packaging guy, get to know their beers, and, you know, identify with one of the breweries. Don't just go into a brewery to try to get a job, but really love their beer, love who they are, because we're all different. You've been to all the different breweries. There's over 300 here in Colorado, and it's like, you'll identify, we all do something different. And so that's a good way to get your foot into the door. I do want to, there is a question about what do you do with your waste CO2 stream?
Lily, thank you.
And that's a great question. It's something that I've been looking at for a couple of years now. We're pretty typical of most smaller breweries in that, unfortunately, the CO2 waste does dissipate into the environment. We're really, really safe with it. We do everything with respect to OSHA, and so we're really careful with that. But there are some companies out there who will recycle CO2. One of them is called Earthy Labs, and they're one that has a lot of our information, and they're going to look at things like, how much CO2 do I use to carbonate beer or to transfer beer? How much does it cost? How much do I waste? And they have a system where they can actually recycle the CO2 and basically save 50% of the CO2 that I waste, and I can reuse it. So again, really interesting technology, and those are things that we're pursuing. So that's a great question. Want to jump and
let's jump
do
in.
The tour, and
we're
then
going to
come back and answer some more questions.
Yeah. Go to the production side where all the beer is made, where the magic happens.
All right. These are all the cans I was talking about. I don't know. You could count them. It's like 6,613 per pallet. And
whoever's closest gets a six-pack?
Gets a 6-pack or something like that. We'll start at the other end. This is a 14,000 square foot building. We originally started in a 3,000 square foot building, but the brewery we had, there were 3 people in the building. So we had the back end of the building, about 1,000 square feet. I started on a 3.5 barrel brew house, and I think I had 500 square feet of the 1,000 square feet. And we were in the back of the building, so our back door was the front door, so you really had to find us. There was somebody else on this side of the building and somebody else on this side of the building. Eventually, we just took over the whole building, but eventually it was too small. I think we did 1,000 barrels, 1,500 barrels out of that place, and eventually we needed to expand. So again, 14,000 square feet. Come on back here. Don't lag back there. Come on.
Keep up, keep up.
I'll take you from the start. All right, a lot of grain over here. These are our specialty grains. The real big grain deal, the base malt, and you can't see it, but it's on the other side of this wall, is there's a silo out there, and we auger in the grain. It goes into the mill up top there and into the grist case. I know it's kind of dark, but you mill it, put it into the grist case, and then you auger it through the bottom. And augering is basically just a screw and a tube that pulls the grain, and it'll come up and over into our brew house over there. So that's a 30 barrel brew house. So that's 10 times what I started out with. We have a hot liquor tank. But this is really where all the brewing and magic happens. So we have a mash tun with rakes. We've got the boil kettle. We've got the whirlpool, and it's It's a lot of stainless steel, and I love it. And it's not magnetic. A lot of pneumatics, all the valves and all that stuff. These are all 90-barrel fermenters. So we brew 3 times into the 90-barrel fermenters. They'll usually sit there for 10 to 14 days. You can see this one is bubbling away. It even makes sounds. Yeah, okay, that's good. So grain, water, in the kettle, you'll boil the wort. It's called wort. So you're basically pulling out sugared water out of the grain. Goes into the kettle. That's where you throw in your hops, and you throw in your hops early, and that's where you get your bitterness. You throw it in the middle of the boil. That's where you get your flavor, and you throw it in towards the end, and that's where you'll get a lot of aroma of the beer. And then you can do what's called dry hopping in the fermenters a few days later, and that's where you get a lot of the aromas. The Lush Puppy that I'm drinking, there's constant hops all over the place. And then straight into the fermenter, you want to send it in at a particular temperature, usually between 65 to 72 degrees for an ale. Lagers are more around 50 to 53 degrees. And, but what I'm doing is I'm creating a great environment for the yeast, because I'm basically trying to get the yeast to grow. From there, we'll either take it to kegging, which is what Dylan does.
All right, guys. Welcome to my office. I'm a little bit of the packaging production side. So we've got our keg filler and cleaner here. You can see a lot of kegs that are primed to clean, and then I will go ahead and fill those in the next couple days. And then kind of my forte here is the canning line. So I'm going to show you a little bit. This is kind of a fun little model here, kind of how we receive our cans. So it starts off, we get a blank sheet of aluminum, and then we get a die that punches it into a puck, right? And then we've got a deep drive that gives it the can shape. And then we have our design printed on that right there. Then we get our rim kind of molded. And then the final product, which we have on our canning line here. So this is a Wild Goose canning line, local Colorado company that does a lot of canning line, a lot of production. And I'll just give you a quick overview of what happens, but we basically have a pallet of cans that are up here. They drop into our what's called a whale tail. Come on down. We've got a conveyor system that pulls it through. We've got 4 fill heads on our canning line. So we've got the 4 here. These 4 fills that are prior, this is to purge any oxygen that's inside the can. So we're dousing it with CO2, pump out all the oxygen so that it can have a sustainable shelf life. From there, it moves on over to the fill head where we are hooked up to those bright tanks that were just mentioned previously. Fill the can with beer, and you always want to cap on foam. That prevents as little oxygen from getting inside the product and really sustaining that shelf life. We've got, if you come on around here, we've got our lid dispenser as well. So it comes on over, there's a little roll attachment here, drops the lid on top of that foam, moves on over. Right now, when it's in the op position, we have our push arm extended, but this is usually drawn back. There's sensors all over the place. This thing is loaded with sensors, so it makes it very easy, automated process. When the can reaches that push arm will punch it on through to our seamer here, where there's a puck down below, pushes the can up, and then both seamers will simultaneously seam that lid, push it on through. We've got a date coder for the Best By date. Comes on through this conveyor to what is called our mum, and this is our 6-pack dispenser. So it'll come on through. Again, sensors all over the place. Once we have 6 cans all rung up, there's a knife that comes down, slices that, and something that's really cool, we talk a lot about sustainability. All of our 6-pack rings are biodegradable in the sunlight. So it's one of those things, we're very environmental friendly. We're really conscious about that. And yeah, we're stoked about it. So we've got a nice, clean, awesome process. And we're gonna come on back real quick to our starting point.
What's that medal you got around your neck?
Oh, this is our gold medal from the Great American Beer Festival for our 1956 Golden Ale from last year. So not bragging or anything, but I think that means we have the best golden ale in the country.
Yeah.
That's
pretty
what I
much.
heard.
I think that's what that means.
Okay, so now it's question and answer. You got this?
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, guys, we will go ahead and do a little bit of question and answer. If you guys, there we go, World
That
Beer
was
Cup.
the World Beer Cup for our Imperial Red.
That was the Imperial Red. All right, guys, so we are going to go through a few of these questions. Feel free to go ahead and toss them in as we're going as well.
Yeah, so while fermenting, does the yeast still need to be present several days after the gravity stabilizes to clean up nasty flavors? The answer is absolutely. So once you hit terminal gravity, you typically want to let it ride for, 3 to 5 days, and so that you don't get any diacetyl. Diacetyl is a nasty thing. The yeast has to reabsorb some of the flavors that it put out there, or some of the phenols, just junk, stuff that's out there, and needs to reabsorb it, so basically clean up the work. How large is our brewery in terms of volume? So last year we did 7,000 barrels. This year we were on track of doing 9,000 to 10,000 barrels. We'll probably hit closer to 9 just because of the situation where we were shut down.
Yeah, the restaurants were shut down.
So we weren't delivering as many kegs.
Yeah.
Let's see, a lot of this work sounds really fun and enjoyable. What are some of the bigger challenges that you have faced since your opening?
I'll answer that one.
Yay.
It's been a constant reinvestment. When people say take a number and triple it, but then do that every year.
And the reason is because as we're becoming more popular and growing, there's a lot of investment in the fermenters.
The equipment is
The
not
equipment
inexpensive.
itself. Yeah, so it's expensive, and there's kind of like you're investing money. Let's see, how does that go? You're money.
We forgot our whiteboard for this one.
And hopefully this gap you're making money, but it's kind of like that, just because it's a lot of.
The other challenge is when you're relying on agricultural products, sometimes demand increases the price. If there's a hop shortage or barley shortage or whatever, I mean, your costs can.
And sometimes it's because of weather. Sometimes it's because of
natural
pests, infections, whatever. But you're at the whim of Mother Nature a lot of times.
Right.
So, do you propagate your own yeast or bring it in externally? We do propagate our yeast. So we start initially, we'll buy a batch of yeast, and we'll start in a smaller batch, and then we'll propagate it up, and then we do use it across the board. But we do only so many generations, and we always check the viability of the yeast. It has to perform properly. It can't take too long and stuff like that. So I think we're getting to that point where we can do maybe one more question.
All right, so from James, we've got, how do you see the future of beer festivals in a post-COVID world? Now, this one's kind of a little difficult, obviously, with things still in motion, and we don't know how things are going to play out, right? Things are slowly opening up, which is great. I think a lot of it right now is there's not going to be any festivals for the foreseeable future right now until we kind of figure out, get a little more of a stronghold on this. But what would be nice eventually is maybe it's one of those things where you send out a closed container or something like that. It's a little difficult to do a tasting on the spot with everything going on, trying to practice that social distancing. So I'm sure, this is this is the time where innovation comes into effect, you know? So somebody's going to come up with the best new model to figure out how are we still going to be able to get everybody together to host these festivals that is still safe, you know, in a way.
Yeah, they're limiting how many people can show up at events, and you know, it's still going to be about social distancing and masks and stuff like that. So it's a great question.
We're all in
think-
it, same boat.
I think right now a lot of it is just going to be virtual, just like what we're doing now. So
This one's an easy one.
that was the last question for today.
Real quick,
Okay,
the Golden Ale, it is not a Belgian.
see, that's what I was
Oh,
Strong
saying.
ale.
okay.
That's what I was
Sorry.
gonna answer.
Sorry.
It is just
Yeah.
a Golden Ale.
It's actually a tribute to the, it's called 1956. It's a tribute to my dad and the Hungarian students who in 1956 revolted against communism in Hungary. And it was a style of beer that my dad loved. And we're so proud that it won medals back to back at GABF. And
Got
this time
silver
was
the year
gold.
prior, gold
Yep.
this year.
Yep. So
That's
great question. Thank you for that. Sorry I interrupt these guys. So I think back to Aaron.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out. You know, have fun, stay safe, drink
Yep.
responsibly,
And
and
Go
go
Bucks!
Bucks! Thanks, guys.
Awesome, you guys. This was so much fun. We love partnering with you. We've loved having you at tailgates. You guys are always so much fun to work with, and we definitely learned a lot from you tonight too. So thank you guys so much. And thank you everyone else too for tuning in and spending your Thursday evening with us, even though it was virtual. Hope you had as much fun as we did. But thank you again, Steve, Leslie, Dylan. We really appreciate you taking us through this happy hour. This was wonderful. And to all our alumni who joined us, thank you so much. And we hope to see you guys again soon. Cheers.
Cheers.
Guys.